Yeah, let's talk about California and taxes. It's never, ever, ever enough. And once again, they're proposing, guess what? To raise taxes again. Now, there's been so many quotes and so many politicians that would say, we have a homeless issue, but if our homeless budget was to be doubled, or I think it was like a New York mayor said in the 80s or 90s saying something like, if our government budget will be doubled, will be no homeless. The government budget over time, as documented, has been doubled, and they still have homelessness. Yes, one of those things where these people just have to be stopped, like just the natural forces of a city, people moving out, they're running out of money. Because if people irresponsibly give more money to these politicians, that will be spent obviously in crony ways, and the government will just depend, like a heroin addict, just depend more and more on that money. But no, additional problems are going to be solved. But no surprise here. We have an article by a city journal titled "The Golden Misstep: A Proposal to Raise Taxes in California Risks Driving Away Even More Residents." Yep, it's never going to stop. In November 2020, California voters rejected a $10 billion business tax hike, showing understandable concern about tax increases during an economic downturn. Since then, tax revenues have surged at the fastest rate in 4 decades, giving the state $31 billion budget surplus. Well, if they have $31 billion, I'm sure California, the unions, the pensions are going to be broke. They're going to have huge problems. They can take this. Obviously, this would be the most prudent way, like how a business would run it or a responsible person would run it, and take this $31 billion surplus and pay off their debt. But of course, that's not politically expedient. That's not going to help anybody get elected into office. So they're looking to immediately spend it, give it to people for political gain, only to have problems down the road. But by that time, those politicians are going to be out of office, so it's not their problem. And that's the real issue of democracy. One might think that it's good fortune that would negate the need to raise taxes, but in some California lawmakers see things differently, apparently believing that the 2020 tax referendum failed for lack of boldness. Assembly members you got to give these leftist progressives credit. They keep trying. They're like the fucking Terminator, like in Terminator 2. Like you shoot them full of holes or whatever, and they just like melt into like metal, and they just like reassemble again to do like their stupid like rent control, increased taxes, awful economy killing policies over and over and over again. And Alex Lee have proposed Assembly Constitution Amendment number 11 to raise annual taxes by $163 billion per year. The package would nearly double California tax burden to fund CalCare, Universal Health Care Program, setting up aside California's governance weakness. The proposal is a poor fit for the new era of interstate tax competition. Oh, I love this. I love the ring to this new era of interstate tax competition. So is this related to the Universal Health Care, CalCare? The Universal Health Care that's going to be for everybody in California. Single payer California. California's current top marginal tax rate is 13.3%, the highest in the U.S. The new proposal would be add a burden generating $31 billion through their payroll taxes on one firms with 50 employees. And the other employees earning $50K or more. What? I mean, $50K, like your poverty level in Los Angeles. You make so little money. And they want to start giving more taxes to people, like $50,000. I'm speechless. Between the gas taxes and the high, super high utilities, the insane rent, like you're eating ramen noodles on a 50K a year. Income tax surtaxes would begin at 150K in earnings and generate another 23 billion with progressive rates. The result would be a preposterous income tax code with 18 tax brackets ranging from 2% to 18%. The real money grab is proposed at 2.3% excess tax on business gross receipts beyond 2 million, which would generate 108 billion in new taxes annually. No, it wouldn't. The issue is when they're looking at their business revenue now, and they're extrapolating that like a tax on that. But once you have a tax on that it discourages. That's like you're putting a big carbon tax on CO2 emissions and then like extrapolating how much money you'll make. Like, no, people are going to reduce CO2 emissions because if there's a higher cost, people are going to use less of it. So all these figures are going to be wrong. Going to be way less. Gross receipts tax hit production cycles multiple times, bringing in tremendous revenue with low rates rather than taxing business profits, which California already does. A gross receipts tax rate revenue from both profitable and unprofitable businesses. Inevitably, some low profit business such as retailers and grocers would pay more taxes than high profit business. I mean, I welcome this. As much as I love the California weather and the landscape and the architecture and stuff like that, they should just go ahead and tax themselves into oblivion. Like, the more the merrier. Just completely turn the knob to 11. Become the new Detroit. And yeah, only then, maybe in a decade, things can change. California should be skeptical of that government that has fostered homelessness, out of control costs of housing costs, rising crime, energy shortages can deliver universal high quality healthcare. Well, California is the playground of the Democratic Party. Everything that moron Joe Biden wants to introduce. This is going to be labbed, like, the next Joe Biden. Or the Kamala Harris is going to be the president. All of our ideas are coming from this California lab experiment. California Assembly passed the healthcare spending portion of this package out of committee on January 20th and has until January 31st to pass this bill before the entire Assembly. So suppose the state does manage to enact this gargantuan tax and spend program, the state's tax competitiveness, which the Tax Foundation currently ranks as 48th, would move from bad to even worse and drive away taxpayers the program depends upon. Two recent changes makes the state tax competitive more important than ever. First, a federal cap on state and local tax deductions, the SALT. Though Democrats hope to reverse this change, I hope they don't. Californians, for now, must pay full freight for their state spending programs. Second is the rise of remote work, allowing more workers to live where they choose, which is an awesome new development. Census immigration data show that Americans are moving out of state, such as high tax states California, New York, and Illinois, and into low tax jurisdictions. California lost 26,000 residents in 2021, more than any other state besides New York. Yeah, a lot of people have a big mouth and claim about all these social goods or whatever, but when the rubber hits the road, people flee. Just like human psychology, people love to say, "Oh, I want to buy made in the United States. I want to pay for workers to get more money at their job, blah, 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 blah." At the end of the day, they shop at Walmart. They're going to go for the lowest price. They could shop at higher price stores, but they just don't. So there's a huge, huge disconnect. What people say, which is basically politics and voting, and what people do, which is actually the market. Even if it stands still, California will continue to lose innovators and middle-class residents to states proactively importing their cost structures. U-Haul couldn't meet demand for all the people leaving California last year. The California Taxpayer Association points out that the revenue estimate for this new proposal didn't consider the inevitable loss of outmigration. Oh, really? California's tax and spend programs are destined to fail. Competitive Sun Belt states are siphoning off taxpayers and business during California of the full revenue of its tax designs. Yes, state competition lets policymakers learn from their mistakes and suggest remedies. Nowhere such competition is more needed than in the Golden State. Yes, I love this concept, but I'll really pray in the future there's going to be a better concept. That it's going to be so easy to move that people can actually move outside the U.S. Or it becomes like very popular to move outside of the U.S., especially for freelance workers. Or heavens forbid, some even states that are completely like secede or just don't follow the federal tax code. Then you would see a real migration. Could you imagine if the United States would develop some like city states like Singapore, where there's almost no taxes and it's like super clean and everything is all like crime is really punished and actually a welcoming place as opposed to like socialist hellholes? I mean, then you'd really see some migration.